Welcome to the Directions Mag Geoinspirations podcast series with Joseph Kerski.
Well, greetings, folks. Joseph Kerski here for Directions Magazine's Geoinspirations column. And I'm very honored and pleased to welcome my colleague here, Jasmine Du. Jasmine, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Joseph.
So great to have you on here. I think that many people probably know who you are because they're in geospatial technology. But if you could explain to the listeners who you are and who you work for and what are your main job duties at the moment.
Yeah, sure. So right now I'm working for Esri R&D Center in Beijing as the lead product engineer for ArcGIS Earth. I have been starting here since 2015. Before that, I was a GIS analyst at ABTS RBI New York office. So there, I was driving geospatial analysis in planning and transportation analysis projects. Before that, I hold a master degree of urban spatial analytics, MUSA program from University of Pennsylvania School of Design, and a bachelor degree of city planning at Nanjing Forestry University.
So you're working for the R&D Center. That must be fascinating. What exactly is an R&D Center?
Yeah, cool. So at R&D Center, we are starting projects and products from 0 to 1. You can treat it as a mini startup within Esri. So we have 3 mature products right now and a lot of ongoing projects going on. So the 3 major products is the ArcGIS Earth, Web App Builder, and Survey 123. Those are all rooted here in Beijing.
And I know that many of the listeners will know about those tools, Survey 123, Web App Builder, and ArcGIS Earth. It's really a huge honor to talk to the lead engineer for those products. So gosh, thanks for talking with us today. What kind of training does a person need to work in an R&D center like yours?
I think it's a really good question. So for me, I had the honor to join the ArcGIS Earth team at the very beginning. So I also start learning after I'm landing in this position. Before that, I'm more on the front end, like using GIS tools provided by Esri for clients to do consulting projects in geospatial area. And now I'm more in the back end to design the products, to work through the user experience, to help users to define products, to help them solve problems. So
that's fascinating. So day to day, are you in JavaScript? Are you in Python? What kind of tools are you using?
In my day-to-day, actually, I'm more in the middle of the product cycle. So the programming is more the focus of the, so let me phrase it like ArcGIS Earth is the team of software engineers, product engineers, and also 3D experts, product managers, and a couple more. So as a product engineer, I'm more on the understanding the user requirements and analyze the workflows and separate them into different required functions, and then collect user feedbacks to run the iterations and into the last minute, like release cycle. So from my day-to-day, I don't program a lot, but if necessary, I will work with my colleagues to understand what are problems and how to find the best way to solve it.
That's very impressive. That makes sense then, because for the benefit of the listeners, I actually met you at the Esri User Conference in 2018, stopping by the ArcGIS Earth exhibit there in the big expo hall. And I was so impressed at the way that you explained the product and how to use it. And I am on the education outreach team, so I'm very interested in how you actually teach people about it. And also, I'm a big fan of all of those products that you talked about. We use Survey 123, Web App Builder, and ArcGIS Earth extensively in education at all levels, university, primary, secondary, lifelong learners. So they're wonderful, and I know they go way beyond education. Here's a question that I get occasionally, and I'd love to hear your perspective and your answer on this. when people say, hey, Joseph, I've got Google Earth. Why do I need ArcGIS Earth? How would you advise me to answer those folks?
I'm really very interested to answer that question because I heard that a lot of times. So Google Earth, of course, is a great product. It starts from like 10 years ago. It has 1 billion users. ArcGIS Earth, we started very early at the beginning. For our enterprise users, Google Earth Pro, for our enterprise users, they are leaving the market, and the company make a decision to start our ArcGIS Earth product. Now, I think ArcGIS Earth is the one can provide you 3D experience while also gap the bridge with the Esri products. We have a lot of the ArcGIS service available for you, and also we are migrating a lot of capabilities coming along. In last August, 2018 August, we had our alpha release for ArcGIS Earth Mobile. So just on last month, we had a beta release. With the mobile release, we are bridging the gap between the desktop and the mobile, which has never happened in any other planet, any other products. And that one, we want to provide a user 3D on the go and on the desktop. There will be sharing experience. There will be GIS data available, and that's designed for both GIS and non-GIS users.
Yeah, thanks for that perspective, Ms. Du. I really appreciate it. It's somewhat aligned with what I tell folks as well. And I agree with you. Google Earth is a great product. And when we work with educators, it's a great introduction to looking at the Earth. You want to look at 3D landscape, runoff from deforestation, all kinds of things you can look at. And then what I tell people is, now you want to go to the next level. You actually want to do some analysis and connect it with the bigger GIS world out there and take advantage of the layers that we've got, for example, in the Living Atlas of the World. Then that is the compelling reason to step into ArcGIS Earth, for example. So thanks for that perspective. Very helpful. So here's another thing I'm wondering, based on what you were commenting on a moment ago, how many people are in the Research and Development Center where you're at right now?
Right now, we have 40 people. Within Earth team, we have 15 crew. And also, R&D Center, we have 2 members, like a couple of members located in Renan's headquarters. So we basically work very closely from daily 9 to 5. And also, if there are anything we need help with, we have crews in Renan's to bridge the gap.
And how often do you travel over to Redlands just for geographic curiosity's sake?
Normally we have once or twice a year for the conference, and during 2017, we have almost half the team migrate to Renan's, relocate there to bring the new runtime empowered New Earth. So that was quite an experience to work very closely with our other team members in Renan's, other like runtime team and injury teams. So that was quite fun.
Yeah, and I hope you got out to the Chaparral Hills there on some of the trails around Redlands. It's a beautiful place to hike. Also, I tell students all the time, and professionals coming into the GIS field, that to me, one of the most exciting places to work is actually at one of these R&D centers, not just at Esri, but in other organizations as well. I know our organization has got several of these R&D centers. I visited the one in Zurich, Switzerland, not too long ago. I'd love to visit your facility at some point. Where exactly are you in Beijing?
Beijing is like we have different rings based on the geographical domain. So our office in the northeast, the third ring. So it's very convenient. We have like 20 minutes driving distance to the airport, while also within 30 minutes, we are close to all the fancy, interesting tourism place in Beijing. So it's very convenient place, and also like in the middle of a lot of technology and companies.
It must be a fascinating place. And I just want to encourage people about entering the geospatial field. To you, being a professional in the land of geospatial, could you identify a class you took, a book, or a person, an event that kind of nudged you into all of this? I mean, were you a sort of a map geek when you were a little kid? You know, what kind of got you into this?
Yeah, I have to say, Esri User Conference was actually the event that attracts me into the field. So before, my background is more in the city planning, land use planning, community health survey, and this kind of different social policy and city planning subjects. And when I was in University of Pennsylvania finishing my master's degree, I was offered an opportunity by Penn Urban Research Lab, and at that lab they provide me a full sponsorship as a student to join the 2012 Esri User Conference. And it was at that conference I met so many people that are so passionate about their products, and also they are willing to solve their problems in so many different diverse industries. And people are also so open-minded to something is impossible. And it was at that conference I could stand out from a city planning perspective to see there are also topics like 3D, and there are topics like people using GIS in wine industry to help them provide best wine, and there are people in environmental, and I can talk to people and meet people. That was the event really make me think the GIS field is just like a sea. You can diverse so many different, you have so many diverse different projects and topics. Of course, there are a lot of class and people I talked to who really inspired me. And at UPenn, there's a class taught by Professor Dana Tomlin. He was the guy who trained me to think as a GIS user. He was also one of the writers for the spatial analysis extension, which helped us the ArcInfo, build up the ArcInfo. So the way he trained us was very interesting, very mind-opening. So that was kind of the pathway why I still in the field and still feeling like I'm inspired every day by the people I meet, by the colleagues I'm working with, and also by the customers who are asking questions.
Indeed. Thanks for sharing that. First of all, there's so many things that you're saying that resonate so well with me, and I think with the Geoinspirations audience. First of all, Dana Tomlin, yeah, he's one of my heroes. He is definitely a pillar in geospatial. And I misspoke a while ago. I thought you were saying Penn State, but UPenn is where you attended, right? But we work with them as well. Yeah, good people. Lots of good universities there in Pennsylvania. So I wanted to say that for the record. Also, I think it's fascinating that you said that about the user conference. I tell people all the time, if you can attend just one time in your lifetime, you don't have to attend every year. I mean, ideally, yes, but you know, financial constraints and the time it takes to get there and so on. But if you could just go one time, it is, as you're saying, Jasmine, it's so inspiring, and you just get so encouraged by all of the really people making a positive difference on the planet in health and public safety and city planning, as you're mentioning, and so many other fields. It's just really, it goes beyond the technology, right? It's all about building a sustainable world, which again, I just wanted to encourage the listeners of this. If you can get to San Diego to the Esri User Conference just one time, you won't regret it. You'll be very encouraged and inspired, which we need in our world, right? You look around and you see the major problems that we're facing, and you say, how are we going to tackle these problems? Well, with smart people like you, Jasmine, and with these good tools that you are developing and promoting. So thanks for sharing that. What initiative are you proudest of looking back over these few years? What project or initiative are you particularly proud of being a part of?
Yeah, of course, it has to be ArcGIS Earth. So starting from 0 to 1 is very fascinating for me as an opportunity to be with a very small team and providing the products. And we have users in so many industries, and also we are kind of standing on top of a giant because Google Earth has quite a fame, and we are now have all those users. They want to have similar experience, but how could we find the Esri data and service and bring new, like make something innovative, even from very tiny data import process or 3D analysis process. We want to do something more, like make you feel like it's a different thing and also help you solve problems. So that's kind of the driven for me, and I'm very proud of. We have such a great team and providing the new and innovative workflows. And also, we are trying to extend the desktop experience into mobile. With mobile, that's a new topic because I think Words right now, they have more into the brand of inviting people to see the imagery and the traveling. But for us, we still, not only we want to have all of this, we want to make user-friendly mobility application and in 3D. So that's something, it feels like starting a new 0 to 1 process. So I really enjoy like being in part of something like this.
Yeah, we're always telling folks that are new into the geospatial field or people thinking about joining or students that are in various stages of their education that, choose a career rather than a job, right? And it sounds like you really have something that, you're not watching the clock, wishing it was quitting time. You're actually enjoying what you're doing. You feel like you're making a positive contribution to the planet. And I agree with you. And I know that just for the listeners right now, you're going to provide us with a couple of links. And I know one of those will be ArcGIS Earth and some of the other products that you talked about. So people will be able to go and access those tools. Speaking of tools, Survey 123, when that became crowdsourceable, to me, that was one of the best things that have ever happened in the last 10 years in the land of GIS. Because then, as you know, and maybe for the benefit of the listeners, then you can actually create a survey easily, either with Excel or with a web browser, and in much the same experience as SurveyMonkey or Google Forms, but then it publishes an editable feature service, and then you can analyze the results in map form. And when it became crowdsourceable, then your end user can be anyone. They don't have to be in your organizational account, or they don't even have to have the app. So that just opened up, all kinds of citizen science, crowdsourcing, ideas and applications. So I love that product as well. We're big fans, as I know many of the listeners are. Okay, Ms. Du, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're busy, probably putting out lots of fires over there, but what's your advice on the most important thing that we should work on as the geospatial education product development community?
Like for me, I always say, just stay curious is the very crucial part. So when I was as a young professional in New York City, I really want to meet people. I joined the local meetup as GeoNYC, who provide community talks almost every month. And they voted for the best map for New York City this year. And also bring a lot of staff, engineers in staff companies, in large organizations, encourage people to talk and learn things. And at so when I just entered the field as a young professional, I think connecting with people and stay curious and be open-minded with everyone's thoughts and just listen to what what the people are really caring about will help you think, oh, how could GIS help them, and what are they doing with GIS, and is there anything I could benefit from? So that's kind of what my advice for people, for students in the field.
Many thanks for those words of wisdom, my friend. Many thanks. And so as we look into the next decade, yeah, we've got lots of problems that we need to solve. And I agree with you. Being curious and asking questions is really the front end, because that's going to make you tenacious to figure out the tools. It's going to make you solve problems. And one of the things that is a challenge is that in our educational system in many countries, we're so focused on, you know, assessing the students' abilities and testing them and so on, and memorization. And oftentimes we don't teach that whole, you know, let's be curious, let's ask questions. And so I completely agree. That's oftentimes, I'm teaching at the university level in a couple of universities right now, and just encouraging the students to ask questions. And maybe you can't answer those questions. Like I, as their instructor, maybe I don't know the answer, which is actually good, because it encourages people just keep asking questions and try to figure things out. So I agree with you there on those words of wisdom. Thanks for sharing. So you touched on this last thing that I was going to ask you already, actually, but your advice to new professionals. You mentioned, you know, get involved, get networked. We do have, for the purposes of the listeners here, we do have an Esri Young Professionals Network. And that's been going on for 3 years, something like that. But it's just been awesome. And there are thousands of people in it. But as you mentioned, there's EURISA, there's AAG, there's other organizations, International Geographical Union, that have a young professionals network. So I agree with you. Encourage people to get into those. Now, what about this? I've got some students, for example, at the University of Denver right now. They're sort of mid-career. You know, they've been in IT, or they've been in computer science, or even something totally unrelated. And now they kind of are at the point in their career where they want to do something with GIS. They don't exactly know what, but they know they want to have more than just kind of a regular job. They actually want to make a contribution to the planet through GIS. And so do you think it's too late for them to get into GIS?
No. I'm very feel great you asked the question, and also you mentioned EURISA. So as a young professional, before, when I was just graduated, I keep an eye on the EURISA's projects. They have a lot of volunteering projects asking for people interest. So I was fortunate enough to join into social action and civil rights projects, but they are asking for support from people might have some technical experience and might have perspective on GIS, and someone may be just a good writer. And all people are volunteered. So there were 2 projects I was involved in. One was forensic oceanary projects, who helps legal court to find out the ARS, the ship information, like GPS for the ships, and compare it with remote sensing to find out the exact location where that incident happened. And also there is another one was organized by School of Data. That project is using GIS data to understand what are the cause and facts of all the garment factories and the related the effects globally. So I will share those 2 links for the readers to read. So as you mentioned, the middle career, I think those professionals, they definitely have something they already very successful as GIS. They don't need to wait just to try with this volunteering job. You can learn from the people who join in, and after you finish one project, you might understand, oh, what's more interesting for me and what I can offer, and have a better perspective of that question.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Those are great words to hear. I agree with you. It is never too late to get into GIS. We have a lot of need for diversity in the community. So those mid-career types, as you say, they're coming from economics, they're from public policy, health, you name it. And all of this is actually increasing the diversity of our community, and it's allowing us to dig into problems maybe that we haven't dug into before, and ask the kinds of questions that maybe those of us that have come through city planning, or in my case geography, haven't been asking. So I just think it's a very exciting time to be in this field or going into this field. So I just want to encourage the listeners to, if you know someone that loves science, loves technology, loves getting outside and collecting data, loves to connect with some of the big tech issues of our time, big data, data analytics, right? The Internet of Things, all those things are really coming to, I think, a key time in the history of GIS. And so again, like you're saying, Jasmine, it's a perfect time for people to get into this, for sure. Mm-hmm. Since this is the geospatial curious bunch, multinational and so on, could you share with us, how do I say geographic information systems in Chinese?
It's 地理信息系统.
And so are we saying systems first, or are we saying the geographic part first?
Yeah, we say the geographical part first. So geography is 地理. Information is 信息, system is 系统. So those are three different words, but we combine it together.
Excellent.
People are getting more familiar with it right now, as so many topics you just mentioned, the big data, the smart cities, the IoT stuff, and data analytics. I think it's just prospering these days.
Yeah, and the future's bright for sure. I think the future's even brighter with people like you in it. I really do. And I was very inspired to meet you. I really appreciate the words of wisdom and advice that you gave. And just to hear about your background and how you got into this is just fascinating. And it looks like I wish we had video for the benefit of the listeners, because it looks like you're in a pretty cool office. There's this blue light behind you and this glass wall, and it just looks like a cool place to work.
Yeah, it is. We are like in R&D Center, it's the open space. So we are not staying in cubics, but very close, working very closely. So we even have like entertainment area with the pool table and Xbox. So come visit us.
I need to visit there. So what was the name of your colleague that I met at the user conference last summer?
Oh, that's the dev lead of ArcGIS Earth team, Kang Yongwei. Yeah, he's very cool and very smart. I'm very glad to work with
both
him.
of you made a great team, and I was very impressed. So again, Shishi, thanks for being here. Much appreciated. And I hope to see you soon. And I encourage the listeners to check out the links that Jasmine Du has provided. She's at the R&D Center there in Beijing, and she's joining us on the Geoinspirations column here in Directions Magazine. So thanks again, Jasmine.
Thanks, Joseph, and thanks all the listeners. Hope you enjoy our discussion.
Folks, thanks for joining us today on Geoinspirations. That was the amazing Jasmine Du at the R&D Center for Esri in Beijing, China.